Episode 8 features one of the best dudes you'll ever meet. He's Coach Keith Belton, and he's the Director of Football Performance at UCLA. Coach KB brings a wealth of experience in the field of strength and conditioning, having worked at the highest levels of college football and also in the private facility environment. I'm thankful to Coach KB for taking the time to come talk shop with us on the podcast. He brings a very dynamic presence and leadership to his program at UCLA. Our conversation was packed with insights into how to develop team culture, hold high standards of accountability, and how to lead a coaching staff and develop relationships with players. We talked about different strategies he uses to train his guys at UCLA, including different warm-ups they use, what they do as far as speed development, and what they do to build and cultivate a culture of competition. This conversation has carryover and takeaways for any strength coach at any level.
So, Coach, appreciate you taking the time to come out here. I really appreciate you, being available for us. So hopefully we have a great conversation. I can't wait to hear from you. Maybe the first thing I want to ask you was, how did you get into strength and conditioning?
It's kind of it's a popular question because a lot of our guys at UCLA ask me the same question. But I would always say that strength and conditioning chose me. I started out on the football side of things. I started out as a running backs coach and started out as special teams coordinator at a smaller school in Charlotte, John C. Smith University. And I was having a blast doing that. An absolute blast doing it. But also, a lot of times when you work in smaller schools, you got to have dual roles or triple roles. So one of those roles was being a strength and conditioning coach. Wasn't certified, but I did have some type of governance. I had the head athletic trainer there with me to kind of make sure everything was done correctly. But from then, just being in the weight room and just – because when you're a position coach, you really just know the guys that in your position group, in your room. But in that weight room, I was around the offensive linemen, defensive linemen, DBs, wide receivers. So it was kind of like a melting pot of just people. And I kind of gravitated towards just building those type of relationships with people outside of just my meeting room, right, outside of my position. So just being in that weight room and just seeing like the spectrum of emotions of being excited when you hit a new PR, but also on the other side of it, when you don't get that PR, you still got to be there. You still got to be that coach and then have to coach them out on the field. So just being around that whole dynamic of the relationship and the dynamic of the emotions that goes into it, it kind of what led me more to being a strength and conditioning coach other than a position coach. And I was having a great time being a position coach. You couldn't have told me I wasn't going to be the next freaking Mike Shanahan or something like that. But when I got into strength and conditioning, it was just like I just took off, man. It was great.
How did you end up where you're at now, and what do you kind of do on a day-to-day basis?
So I started out at John C. Smith, and then I took an internship at Wake Forest. So if you don't know, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. So from Wake Forest to Charlotte, it's like an hour 15, an hour 30 minutes. So I took that drive, do my internship every day. I had a blast doing it. Sometimes I go there and Chris Paul would be there. I'm like, oh man, I saw Chris Paul today, or I saw Tim Duncan today. But I never had a chance to work with them. Obviously, I was with the football team. But so when I was at Wake Forest, after Wake Forest, I went to Baylor. I took Baylor as an unpaid intern. Then it turned into a paid position within the 3 to 4 months, and I was there for 2 years. And what experience that was, because I had a chance to work with Robert Griffin III and Kendall Wright and Josh Gordon and a lot of those guys that was on that 2010, 2011 team. And that was one of the best experiences of my life because I just learned so much about the business aspect of it. I learned more about training. I learned about relationships. I learned about administrative duties. I learned about everything you possibly learn about, college athletics down at Baylor at that time. So I spent 2 years at Baylor. After Baylor, I went to the University of Southern California. Let me back up. I went to the University of Washington. And at first, I was just going to take the interview just to take the interview because I was like, in Seattle, I never been out there before. I never been to the West Coast. And it rains all the time. That was a story I was telling myself. But when I landed in Seattle in March, I was like, what in the world is this? I saw Mount Lake. I saw Mount Rainier. I saw the Eagles, and I'm a big fan of Eagles in general. I saw some Eagles sitting on the 520 bridge. Then I had a chance to meet Coach Sarkisian and meet the rest of the staff, meet the strength staff. I went back to Baylor. I said, man, I'm going to UW. And everybody was like, what? They didn't understand that. But I had never been to the West Coast before. I had been in the South basically my whole career, my whole life, except going to Syracuse. And so when I had a chance to go to the West Coast, I was out there. So I spent 2 seasons out at the University of Washington. Then that whole staff came to the University of Southern California. So I came down with Coach Sark in 2014 when we all came from the University of Washington. Preceding that, after that 1 season at the University of Washington, I went to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. I was there for 2 seasons for 15 and 16. For 15 and 16, golly, time is flying. 15 and 16. Then I came back to USC from 17 to 18. Then I went to Kansas for 1 year. Then I got out of the business for a year, took some time out, went down to Houston, worked at a facility, kind of designed some things down there for kids, and it's still thriving now. My son is actually training. He's actually training there right now, about to wrap up probably. So I moved my whole family to Houston. I did that for a year, not knowing that the pandemic was going to happen. Then the pandemic happened, and it was a blessing for us because we was a central facility, so everybody had to come to our facility in Houston to train, all the high schools and the middle schools, the college guys, the NFL guys, the NBA, the boxers, because all around the country everything was locked down. So people from California was coming down to Houston to train because we was one of the only thriving facilities. They get physical therapy, you got pools, you got everything. So, of course, there were some guidelines, some health guidelines that we had to follow, and we did that to the T. But just being down there at that time, even though for the country it was bad and it was a stressful time for a lot of people, and people in Texas, but for us in particular, it was a blessing because it was like, come on, everybody come. And so from 7 in the morning to basically 7 at night, it was a full house. And because you had the social distance, you had to have people 6 feet apart, but then we had a big old turf field that was 60 yards long and 40 yards wide, and we had tons of people out there, and we doing everything. So it was great. But then I got the call to come out to UCLA after a year. I got a call from Coach Kelly, and it was a no-brainer for me. It was a no-brainer because the thing about it, when I was down in Houston, we was doing a lot of really good things with the youth, and I had a chance to really be a husband again and be a father and be there and be present. And as you know, in this business, you don't get a chance to really do that a lot because it's this, it's that, it's training, you know, this, and a year never stops, right? But I miss competing, man. I just miss competing. I miss that Monday meeting, you know, when you debrief it. I miss that Tuesday practice, you know, which is always grueling. I miss that Wednesday practice. I miss that schedule. I miss that home game where the opposing team comes to the stadium and you're like, man, we finna whoop y'all, or when we got to jump on that airplane and go play somebody else, and then everybody's born that you were probably throwing something. Like, I miss that competitiveness. So when Coach Kelly gave me a call, I was like, ain't no question, I'm coming. If you guys want me there, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to give you everything that I have. So I'm going into my 3rd season there here at UCLA, and I don't plan on leaving no time soon. I love it. I love Coach Kelly. I love the administration. I love those kids there, and I want to make UCLA my home for a long time.
For the listener, you and I got introduced, what was that, 2 years ago, probably when you just came out, maybe 3 years ago.
Yep.
I train 2 kids. Their dad is Chip Kelly's chief of staff.
Yep.
So that's how you and I got connected,
Yep.
Which was cool. And last summer, your son was able to be out here with you, and he trained here a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to work with him. I can't wait to see what he does. So I just love your dynamic personality. So in all of our interactions, that's just what I really appreciated, is just you know, how personable you are and how you can really command a room. And that's why I really wanted to bring you in, because I wanted to get your take and your perspective on team culture. Because with football, is such a unique sport in that you have 9 months to train.
Yep.
Most other sports aren't like that. So you got 9 months to train, and you got 3 months to play, potentially 4. So most of the year is spent as a football player in the weight room.
Yep.
With your team getting after it. Yep. And I wanted to get your perspective on what do you see, how do you define team culture, and how do you develop team culture as far as standards and accountability in the weight room? Yeah,
well, luckily for me, I work for Chip Kelly, so it's not that hard. And we recruit a certain type of kid anyway. You know, you got to be smart to go to UCLA to even get into UCLA. But the biggest thing is we don't have a lot of rules, right? We don't have a lot of rules. We just have standards. And Coach always says if you want to win the winners, keep your standards high. If you want to lose your winners, lower your standards. And so we keep our standards high, and we lose a lot of losers too because the standard is not going to change. So if you're a loser and you can't meet the standard, then this may not be the place for you. But again, luckily for us, we get the right type of kids in the program. We get smart kids who love football, who love to train, who love school, and they're serious about the academics at UCLA, particularly our football players. It's one of the only places I've been is like, Coach, I have to go to class. I don't know if they're tired of running or they're tired of lifting by the time class is supposed to start at 11. But by the time 11 o'clock comes, like, Coach, I got to go to class. Class starts at noon. I know you got time. No, Coach, I have to go to class. So that's a blessing for us because Coach Kelly is he's very clear on that mission, right? Our mission is to graduate our players and make sure every one of those guys get every opportunity they have, not only on the football field but when they leave as well. And we have to equip them with those resources, and that's what we do. As far as the team culture, again, I think it starts with Coach Kelly. It really does. It starts with Coach Kelly from the way that we carry ourselves in the rooms, the way we carry ourselves within the building in itself, the way we treat the people who feed us, the way we treat our professors, the way we treat the guys or the young ladies who clean the buildings or whoever it may be. Like, everything goes into that, right? Because we really feel like that everybody's a part of the success or failure of the program, right? So nobody's better than nobody. And like today, myself and the staff, we was sweeping the floor and the kids was wiping the benches down. They was wiping the dumbbells down, and that's their job. They know every day we go clean benches and bars, or the next day we go clean the racks, or the next day we go clean the cardio equipment, or the next day we go clean this or that. And they all chip in, and we all sit down and we clean it to the T. And I think it's one of those old saying, it's one for all for one type deal. And just building real genuine relationships, I think that's the only way that you can really have that type of strong of a culture. So we have a lot of breakout sessions and stuff way outside of football, right? They know me, they know my family, they know my kids, they know my story, they know how I got there, they know my past, but at the same time, I know their past too. I know their story. I know where they've been. I know their heroic moments. I know the things that probably hurt them in life. I know their family dynamics. So a lot of times when you have that type of intel, it helps you, one, relate a little bit better. It helps you coach them a little bit better, or how not to coach them, right? But then at the end of the day, if you always lead out of the spirit of love, and I think that's what we do, that's what we really pride ourselves on. If you lead out the spirit of love, then you can coach them. You can coach them really hard too, right? Because they know where it's coming from. And I don't always come back and try to pat you on the back and try to explain to you what I was trying to say. Because, like with the young kids, make sure you round back around to them. No, I'm not going to round back around to you. You was wrong. So let's come back tomorrow and let's get it fixed. And it's funny you asked about that. So even right now, our motto is details and discipline, right? That's our motto, and it needs to be our motto for life in general, because I wear it even when I'm not at the school, because it really just comes down to those things, right? And we look at our season and we dissect our season, and I take accountability for every game that we lost, and we lost 4, including the bowl game. And but when you look at our season, I would say, and a lot of people can say this, but I would say you could take probably 8 to 10 plays out of the whole year. You take those plays out, we're going to be in that conference championship. I think the game that we just outright lost, we lost in Eugene, you know what I mean? I just think that day they were just a better team than we were. But every other game, I feel that there's a play here or a play there where we just could have finished a little bit better. And it wasn't because anybody was any better than us. It was just that we were slacking on our details and our discipline in the moment. So Karate Kid has been our go-to movie this spring. The 1984 version, though, not the new one. Right. Right? The 1984 version, and we meet every morning. And we watch the wax on, wax off scene. And when Daniel's son just tries to go through the motion, he said, wax on, wax off. And then Mr. Miyagi stops him, and he said, wax on, ha, wax off, ha. Then he tell him, look, I always look, I. And so we look at that same little 2-minute skit every single morning for the past 3 weeks now. And at 8 o'clock, the lights come off and that comes on. And it's to the point now where the guys actually memorize the scene. But then after the scene goes off, I call random guys up to the front of the room and I ask them, what does that video mean to you? You got to pay attention to the details, even when you don't feel like it. You got to listen to your coaches, even when they probably getting on your nerves. Even then some of them say, hey, even when you think you know what you're doing, you really don't know what you're doing. But Daniel's son, he knew what he was doing because when all heck broke loose and Mr. Miyagi started throwing those combinations at him, he applied everything that he had been doing in his training. But that's what training is really for. Can you apply the discipline and the details when all heck breaks loose? And most time it happens in the game, and we wasn't able to do that. So right now, that's just where we are. We're instilling that within our culture, and everybody's shirts tucked in now, and they showing up to meetings 8 to 10 minutes early, and it's to the point when I'm in the building and I can just be working out, and the kids are coming in the weight room and they, hey, coach, why your shirt ain't tucked in? But I can't say anything because the standard is the standard. You know what I mean? I'm on my own time. It's 5:35 in the morning. I'm tumbling around on my mat, shoes off like I really know some jiu-jitsu, and I don't, but I'm just doing what I do. They're like, coach, that shirt need to be tucked in. But I don't say anything. I just tuck my shirt in and just keep going about my business. But, you got to be above reproach sometimes because I make them do it. Take your jewelry off, take your earrings off, take all those wristbands off, show up on time, listen to coach when he's talking, be prepared when you get there, and then execute when you get out on the field. And it's an ongoing process. You got to teach every day. So we're getting there. So as far as team culture, I think relationships are big. Understanding how to coach the kid is big. Understanding their background is big. And also allowing them to see you for who you are, not necessarily their coach. And calling them on the weekends and inviting them to come in on the Saturday or the Sunday to do extra work or just sit down and talk. So it's an ongoing process, and we're all just working on it. We're all in a development field, and we're all passionate about it, and we all group text each other. I got my group, our group text, and all the strength coaches have their own groups. They group texting just to make sure everybody's good, and it's an open door policy. Sometimes kids storm in my room, and I got a big old couch in my room, and I walk in my room, and in my office, and I got 2 or 3 guys on my couch knocked out sleep. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's not my office anymore, but I'm okay with that because it's like I would much rather you be here sleeping and doing whatever you want to do. It's a lot of things you can do in LA, but you choose to be here and be asleep, so I'm fine with it. So coach is a strong word, man. But it's all encompassing. It's not just when you leave the building, like, not just when you in the building, it's even when you leave the building, like you're a representation of your family, but you're a representation of UCLA and UCLA football. So when they go to Whole Foods or they go to Fat Sal's or they go to Cava or they go to California Pizza Kitchen, wherever it is, you're still a part of that coaching. You're still representing everything that you've been taught by your parents, but also what we've continued to teach from your parents when you come to UCLA. So it never turns off. It never turns off. It's just an all-encompassing deal all the time.
And I think you bring up a great point about the relationship aspect because that's coaching. I mean, it doesn't matter weight rooms, on the field, football, whatever sport is coaching and relationships. So how do you do that when you got 100 players? I mean, that's got to be hard to try to develop that contact point and that relationship with each guy. How do you kind of manage that?
Yeah. So our schedule is kind of unique though. So we got I believe I got the best schedule in the world. I truly believe that. So we don't do 6 o'clock lifts. Coach Kelly does not believe in 6 o'clock lifts. And it makes sense to me because he's like, okay, think about this. He say, KB, you went to college. You went to Syracuse. What time did you go to bed? And I was like, Coach, do you really want to know what time I went to bed in college? He said, just say you went to bed at 11 o'clock and you got training at 6. Okay, so you went to bed at 11. You got training at 6. You're going to get up at 4:45, 5 o'clock. What are you going to eat? You're not really going to be hungry. You're really not going to drink anything. So you probably get you a piece of a bagel, maybe some orange juice and some water. But at 6 o'clock, that whistle's going to blow. But you're not properly fueled. You're probably dehydrated. You probably haven't eaten anything substantial since 7 o'clock the day before. So now you're already 12 to 13 hours behind. You have no fuel. So there's a really good chance, one, cognitively, you're not going to be able to function. 2, A dry muscle is a bad muscle, right? It's going to tear. So it's the likelihood of you getting hurt or you getting sick is going to be increased probably by 85, 90% if you don't sleep well or if you don't eat. So our schedule is from 6 to 8 is breakfast. 8 o'clock is a team meeting. 8:45 basically is the first time that we're going to train. We're going to train at 8:45. Some pre-warm-up type stuff. 9 o'clock we're going. 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock we're rolling. Then they're done for the day. They're going to eat lunch on campus right there at our facility. Then they're going to go to class and they come back at 5. From 5 to 7 they're going to eat dinner. But from that 11 to 5, you're going to get half the team still coming in the weight room to get extra work in. Maybe it's jumping rope. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's some bis and tries. Maybe it's some core. Or maybe it's just to sit down and talk. So, again, we all have our group chats with our specific groups. But what we've decided to do, let's go ahead and rotate them. That way we can just talk to everybody. I'm blessed because I got 5 other guys. And I always tell the guys, you don't have to have the best relationship with me. I'm perfectly fine with that. As long as you have somebody on this staff that you can talk to, you feel like you can talk to and trust, then do that. It doesn't have to be me because sometimes I believe it can be a little intimidating to talk to me because they know I'm right next to Coach Kelly. And they know that I'm going to tell them because I am going to tell them, right, if it's something that's a concern. But what they understand, like, even if you tell one of my guys, he has to tell me. But you probably just feel more comfortable telling him so he can tell me because you probably don't feel comfortable telling me. So that's kind of how we get to that. But then on Wednesdays, we have player development where we have breakout rooms, and we have 15 to 20 guys per room, and we have a list of questions that we go through, and whether it's from childhood, whether it's your fondest moment, whatever those questions are. And we all get a chance to really just chop it up. And all the coaches do it first. They go up there and they be vulnerable first, and they tell their stories first. And that kind of opens the gate for the kids to feel like, hey, you know what? If Coach came up here and he's crying, then I'm going to come up here and it's okay to cry at this point. It's okay to be vulnerable because nothing leads out of these walls. And we've been fortunate with that because guys are really, really in tune with that because now they understand why Keith Belton acts the way that he does. Because it's like, yeah, I can see that now. So that's how we do it.
And that's on every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. But it's actually every day.
Right.
It's actually every day, man. Because, like, I always say, and I believe, like, our profession, it's a form of ministry in a sense. You know what I mean? We're not in the pulpit, and we're not, head of a congregation, and we ain't collecting no tithes or anything like that. But man, we get to see these guys and these young ladies at their absolute optimal, like when they run these PRs or when they hit that bench press or they hit that depth on that squat or where they get that vertical or they get that broad or that pro agility or that 3-count. Like, we're there for those moments, but we're also there for those other moments when they don't hit them. And we got to be the same guy. But then you got to be there when they make a bad mistake, because they will. And you got to call them and say, okay, this is what this is. Out of the spirit of love, I'm going to correct you right now. But then we're going to move on. This is not going to go into tomorrow. We're going to handle this right now. This is what you did. This is what the punishment is going to be. And then we got to move on for it. So Coach Kelly always says it's 2 things that we have to do as coaches, right? We have to educate and we got to motivate. That's it. There's no more than that. I told the team earlier today, he's a lot nicer than I am, right? Because my deal is either you don't know or you don't care. So if you don't know what you're doing, that's my fault. I shouldn't have never had you to do it if you don't know what you're doing. But if you don't care, that's a whole nother issue. Now we got to dig deep to kind of figure out where is this nonchalant attitude coming from. Is something going on at home? Is it a girlfriend thing? Is it a boyfriend thing? Whatever it may be, we need to have this conversation of why you're not performing, because I know you can, right? So, but again, it's ongoing. It's every day. I got a coach tomorrow, right? We had some guys to leave their shoes outside. We don't leave our stuff outside for somebody else to pick up. So I got a coach tomorrow. You know you're not supposed to leave your shoes outside, but you left your shoes outside. So let's figure out why you left them outside. Now, this is the punishment, because you do have punishment for this. But I'm expecting for you to learn from this so we can move on from it. So, yeah.
And you can't educate and especially motivate if you don't have that relationship.
Yeah. I mean, you can, but it won't work out too well.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, but it ain't going to work out too well.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of what you said, though, is what I take in my world. You know, last year, a couple years ago, I left my private facility, went on to a new venture privately. I had like 3 or 4 female athletes I used to train that their parents hired me as a quote unquote therapist.
Yeah.
Just to talk to them.
Yeah.
They had a couple injuries, so I always joke, like, as a strength coach, like what you're saying is that we wear a lot of hats. We're not professional therapists, we're professional strength and conditioning coaches, but it's that comfortability piece. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about that, but I think a lot of the strength coaches that do listen to this is, what are some of the struggles that you do run into maybe at different schools or whatever, just to give them some examples and maybe how you work through that, because I'm sure there's a lot that, don't have it as good as you have it, or their coaches do make them work out at 5 a.m., or there might be some issues that you're like, just try to focus on, these things and try to help. It just takes kind of some small changes sometimes to create a big change down in the future.
Yep. You know what? It's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So when I first became the head strength coach at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, we didn't have a lot of resources. We didn't. And I remember I was in the car with the realtor. I was trying to find somewhere to live, and she knew some people that was associated with the program. And I remember she made a call to somebody, and she said, "Hey, I got the new strength coach here, Keith Belton, came here from USC. He's excited to be here. All he wants to do is just make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the kids, and maybe some milks. Do you know if we can kind of?" And the person at the time said, "I'm not giving another blank dollar to that school, especially not the football program." And that broke my heart, because I'm like, only thing I want to do, because I was coming from USC, and it's a lot of food over there, right? Little Galen ain't no joke, right? They got chefs and everything, and the only thing I wanted to do was make peanut butter jelly sandwiches, And so what happened was, luckily I had a really, really good head coach. I mean, shoot, man, I freaking love that dude to death, man. He gave me my first shot, man, Coach Tony Sanchez, and he was a head coach at Bishop Gorman High School, and then he got the job at UNLV, and I had a conversation with him, and things happened, and we was able to go get us some bread and some peanut butter and some jelly, and the kids was loving it. And then I had one staff member, Jeff Eaton, he's at University of Miami now. So we would get to the facility at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and we'll make 100 and 150 peanut butter jelly sandwiches, wrap them up in a little saran wrap. The guys would pick them up. Then we got a little deal with the grocery store where they would give us the milks, the little carton milks. But to the kids, that was everything. They was like, we never had this before, and they was eating it up. But then we had like an old storage room. This is the best part. We had an old storage room where they kept a lot of old equipment. And I was like, yo, Jeff, we need to clean this up. This going to be our nutrition bar, right? He was like, but he from Philly, so he was like, say less. Man, he put his gloves on. We knocked some stuff down. We painted the doggone thing up. I called the guy that was head of maintenance, Mr. Fred Smith, who's my guy to this day. He came in, he said, coming in hot. He came in with the doggone forklift. We were tearing that thing down, painted it up. Then things happened. Things started to grow. Coach Sanchez was excited about it. We got us some hot plates. We started making eggs. It was great. We started making eggs. We started making pancakes. We started making oatmeal. Next thing you know, we had like a full bar within a year in that little old space. Then campus caught word to it. Then the athletic director called. She was like, how can we make this bigger? What if we take this locker room, knock this whole locker room out, and we could do this for the whole athletic department? It was rolling, man. It was rolling. So that was one of the struggles you had. I think sometimes when you're stuck in places, you think there's no solutions, but there's always a solution. You just got to be the solution, because if you're not the solution, then you're part of the problem. So It's just one of those things, man. You just got to think outside the box on some things and try to figure it out, right? So obviously with a lot of smaller schools, high schools, a lot of times resources is one of those things. Car washes, go have a car wash, go have a bake sale, find a way to raise money. Go to like places like I'm giving away all my secrets right now, but this is so good. I'm having fun. Go like the Einstein Bagels, go to Panera Bread, go to some of those other bagel places. A lot of times they throw those bagels out at the end of the day. You know what I mean? If you're a high school or if you're a college or something like that, go build that relationship, right? Talk to the general manager, say, hey, we just want whatever bagels you don't use, can we get them for tomorrow? They're going to throw them away. And maybe they don't give them to you. Maybe they give you a really, really good discount for them. But I like to believe that your neighborhood Einstein Bagel, or they're going to say, oh, Starbucks, they're going to say, you know what? You know what I mean? Because it's community, right? You want to be a community. You don't want to say no to your community, high school, right? So I would say just reach out to those entities because people want to help. That's the thing I did realize, like, people are looking to help. They want to help. It makes people feel good to help, even if it's for selfish reasons so they can say they did it. But as long as you got your bagel, you're good, right? So resources for a lot of people are an issue, but you just have to be creative and just build relationships. And that's what we did at UNLV. And those relationships built because if you can see now, they got that doggone facility they got now. They got one of the nicest freaking football facilities in college football, period. But it all started with a corner with bagels and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And they broke ground, I think, the next year after I left on that Fertitta building. And, man, I was there actually when the Fertitta family came to one of our first games at UNLV, and they just believed so much in that program. And they still believe in that program. And I was there when, I shook Mr. Fertitta's hand. I was like, oh, my God, I just shook Mr. Fertitta's hand. And it was great, and then they made a donation towards that facility, and it just kind of took off from there. But, resources, like I said, resources is always an issue. Another issue that you deal with, man, honestly, and it's a sad deal because I think we all deal with it, it's parenting, man. Parenting is oh, my gosh, man, it goes a couple ways, right? Either you're going to have the very, very supportive parent, like we all are, right? Just supportive, just want to see what's best for your young lady or your young man, right? You just want what's best, right? I'm good with that. But then you got the other parent, right? You got the other parent, and you got the parent that treats their kid like they're a lottery ticket. And that's not fair. That's not fair. And I say this all the time, and I catch a lot of flack for this, but I don't care. Your kid is not your lottery ticket. I don't care how much time you put into him or her. It don't matter how many camps you sent them to, how many times you think you done went into debt. That's your child. That's what you're supposed to do. You get no credit for that. That's your child, right? You're supposed to provide those opportunities. But your child is not obligated to take care of you. I told my kids, my children, because my youngest son, Storm, he says he's going to have 3 Lamborghinis in a big old house. That's what he said. He just turned 9 years old. I believe it, too. I literally believe it because the story never changed. It's always been 3 Lamborghinis in the big old house. I say, Storm, you know what I want you to do for me when you do make a lot of money? He like, what, you want one of my Lamborghinis? I say, no. The best thing you can do for me is to never come back to my house. Period. I think that as a parent, that's your gift, for them not to come back and live with you unless they absolutely have to. That's why we're going to provide every opportunity, because you know what? When my youngest son leave, me and mama, we starting over. We are starting over. And you better not just walk in that house. You never know what you're going to see. We're going to move to Mars. We're going to go somewhere, but it's just going to be me and her because we did our job, right? So that's the parent who's just supportive and you just want what's best for your kids. I get that one. I think that's great, right? But that's my lottery ticket parent. We can't. No. He's not. And he or she is not as good as you actually think they are.
Right. No way.
They're not as good as you actually think they are, right? And so that's a challenge as well. And then obviously, and I hate to say it, you got the single parent, whether it's a single dad or a single mom, that's always trauma. Everybody has something that you got to battle through. Everybody does. I do. Us as coaches, we do. Your parent, everybody's fighting something. There's always a tug of war, right? And a lot of times these kids, they grow up with a single dad or a single mom, and they never had that figure, whether it's a mom figure for nurturing or that dad figure for some correctives, right? Or how to adapt to things or how to adopt different survival techniques, whatever those may be, that a lot of times come from dad. We end up eating a lot of that. And you run across a lot of kids who really don't trust their mom or their dad. And so now they're coming to you and you telling them what to do, and they're like, hold on, man, like, no, my mama don't talk to me like that. Or my daddy don't talk to me like that. But what I'm hearing is, I wish my mom or dad did talk to me like that. You know what I mean? But that's where the relationship aspect of it comes across. What are other things that people probably – but resources is the number one thing. That money is big.
And off that, not to cut you off, but I feel this is a strength coach podcast, but where you say the resources, I bet you from that, the culture in the weight room probably changed.
Yes.
So that's like a big point. I feel like just by doing something so small, building that relationship, getting the peanut butter and jellies, getting the milk, I bet you the training went up, the numbers went up, the environment went up, the culture went up, and it just changes everything.
I'll tell you this. That was the biggest hustle ever. Like, I don't care what you're into, $2.39. Well, if you add some bananas, because we end up getting the bananas, they gave us a big old box of bananas for $20, the big old box. So I would say $5. We literally turned $5 into like $20 million. That $5 investment turned into $20 million. That Fertitta building they in right now, I can really say came from Coach Sanchez, him being open-minded and allowing myself and Coach Eaton and those interns cook in that little room because it made everybody think bigger. Now I don't even know if that room even exists anymore. They got a brand new facility, but the morale of the program just changed. It was to the point where the other teams was wanting to come to our weight room to see if we had any food left over because they didn't want to walk across campus. And we were like, yeah, please come by. So we're making burritos, like we're having a good time, but we just love to do it because we just love to serve. We saw our purpose in that. It was great. Because you know how it is as a parent or as a coach or as a mentor or whatever it is, ain't nothing like seeing kids eat. Ain't nothing like seeing kids eat. And then seeing them perform, then it make you want to go cook some more. So we didn't have a whole lot of those $5 days after that first year. It was a lot of money to be going through.
So that brings up a different point too. Is just being resourceful and intuitive and how you think you can connect to your players, and how that connection can transfer to performance and morale and brotherhood and just togetherness, because it comes from the top. Mm-hmm. It comes from the top. Changing gears a little bit, I wanted to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of training football a little bit. Yep. What do you consider when you're organizing kind of a program in the winter for your team? Yeah,
that's a really good question, and we kind of talked about it. We kind of touched on it earlier. The transfer portal it's changed everything. It's changed everything. Like now we have 15 to 16 to 17 new guys in the program. And some of these guys are coming from other programs. So the traditional thought would be, okay, you get 8 weeks of training, squat them, run them hard, bench them hard, power clean them hard, snatch them hard, run them till they throw up. We don't really operate in that world, so to speak. Where we are now at UCLA is like, okay, what are the needs of the team? Overall needs. I think everybody needs to get bigger. Everybody needs to get stronger. But our evaluation process when it comes to how we break down each player from a sports science standpoint, whether it's through our catapult stuff, through our tracking, through our no boards to testing their hamstrings, whether our spotter machines, that gives us a really clear direction of where we need to go with each guy. Now, I'm not saying that we make a different program for each guy because everybody's going to fall under different pillars, right? And so we make programs according to those pillars, right? Now, from there, that's when the personal relationships kick in. Okay, say Zach Charbonnet, because he's no longer there. He transferred from Michigan, right? He came in. Michigan did a great job. They have a really, really good strength program. But I said, okay, Zach, what did you guys do at Michigan? We did 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I knew they didn't do 5, 6, 7, and 8. I didn't expect for him to be really, really, really dynamic at 5, 6, 7, and 8 because he was only doing 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just through relationship and just through communication, I was like, okay, we're gonna do a hang clean. I'm gonna teach you how to do the hang clean. At first, he was awful at it. After 2 to 3 weeks, he was whipping that thing. Then we put a tendo on it. Now it's competition time. Now he really whipping that thing. So theoretically, I would say, like, we started 3 weeks ago of our 8-week program. Me, I take all the new guys, all the transfers, and we're tumbling right now. So I got a wrestling mat. I teach them how to roll. And the purpose of that, so we do forward rolls, backward rolls, bear crawls, crab walks, cartwheels, side rolls, because I want the guys to really understand how to use their bodies, how to follow, because you don't get hurt when somebody pushes you. You get hurt when you fall and even trying to get back up or even stand on the ground. So we're going back to where we were kids. So we're training a lot right now with no shoes on. Like today, they spent the whole session with no shoes on. They deadlift, feet flat on the ground. Of course, it was elevated, so I don't want nobody to hit their foot, right? They did a push jerk, feet flat on the ground, bare feet. But they were supersetting with tuck jumps on the pad. They were supersetting with the rolls. We did bench press. I want to see your toes in the ground, your whole foot in the ground. I want to see your whole thumb wrapped around that bar, and we start out with eccentrics. So we go eccentrics for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and then we go isometrics, and then we get into the actual training of it. So we break everything down, particularly with me right now, with all these new guys. I want to see from a fundamental standpoint, how do you even walk? That's why I tell them to take the shoes off. And most of these guys, they wear these Crocs or they wear these sandals, and I hate them. I hate them because your foot is meant to flex and extend, and with those Crocs and with sandals, it enables you to do that. So you create a bad pattern. And then also it makes you walk on the outside of your shoes. So if you see, I can say fat. When you see larger human beings, they walk on the outside of their shoes. And so that also creates a bad pattern as well, a bad gait. So I always tell our guys, don't wear no sandals around here anymore. Take those Crocs off. You need to be wearing tennis shoes, tie them up tight, or go barefooted. So I take all the new guys, break them down fundamentally, see their gait, see how they run, see how they change direction, see how they accelerate, see how they decelerate. Then I categorize them. What does he need? He's more of a single leg guy. He's more of an isometric guy. He needs to do more eccentrics. He need to go to the training room because I'm not messing with him, right, until we get this cleaned up. But the rest of the team, we got 2 years of data. And so obviously, as you guys know, you have a training max and then you got your actual max. So right now, our training max is 80% of our actual max. But we're actually taking another 10% off of that. So we're really training at like 70% because we don't chase numbers. We don't chase numbers at all at UCLA. We really feel like this is our thought process. If we coaching you with great technique, you eating the right things, you sleeping the right things, and we making sure you're getting full range of motion and everything you do and you move really well, that weight's gonna come. And so we've really been harping on that for the past 2 weeks. Like yesterday, I had to teach them how to do jumping jacks again in front of the classroom. In front of the meeting room, I asked some guys to come down and do jumping jacks. Teach me how to do a jumping jack. Because evidently y'all don't know how to do it. Because we kept having to do it the day before. We kept calling it back, do it again. So again, it's a revolving door in educating and motivating, but we break hours down. We find out who needs a strength strength-based program, who needs a power-based program, who needs more of a hypertrophy phase program. And a lot of times it's your transfers, it's your freshmen, underdeveloped guys, who just needs to get big and strong, and then who just need to get tougher. So a lot of the things we do, we always have a finisher. And sometimes these finishers are combative. They one-on-one, and somebody got to win, right? Then some of them is more team-building type things. So just trying to build that and kind of see where everybody is before we get into spring ball has been big for us. Now these next 4 weeks, we're going to transition from strength training to more on-the-field type things because spring ball is going to start within the next month. So now we got to get outside more. We got to start jumping more. We got to start changing direction a little bit more. We got to start doing more reactive things. We got to start competing one-on-one battles again. We got to go receivers against DBs, running backs against linebackers, O-line against D-line, and start building that until they get into spring ball. So first 4 weeks, we getting after it pretty good with the eccentrics and the isometrics, teaching technique, teaching fundamentals, learning who they are again. The next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to get into that transitional period before we get into spring ball.
So you mentioned you kind of have your different profiles that you use,
Yep.
and that kind of determines where a guy might go.
Yep.
As far as skills and mid skills and bigs, how do you organize training around that, or do you at all?
No, that's good. That's good. So, like I said, I'm fortunate. I think I got the best strength staff in America. I really do. Like, just good dudes, just good people in general. So Coach Simmons, he takes all the skill guys. So he has all the offensive skill, all the defensive skill, along with Coach Buchanan. So Coach Buchanan, he handles all of our sports science stuff, but he also works with the skill guys as well. As far as our big skills, who is our tight ends, our outside linebackers, some of our bigger running backs, they'll be and inside linebackers, they'll be in that group. And Coach Adrian Briones, he works with those guys. And then Corey Miller, who I love to death, I got him from Ole Miss, and he just looks like a defensive lineman. He actually was a defensive lineman at the University of Tennessee, and he does all the offensive line and defensive line guys. And all the programs are different. All the programs are different, but at the same time, all of them are the same in a lot of ways, right? Everybody's going to deadlift. They probably deadlift on different days. They're all going to do a front foot elevated split squat with a 5-second eccentric, 5 sets of 5 with a 2-second pause at the bottom. It just all depends on what day you're going to do it. They're all going to have a max velocity. They're all going to have a change of direction day. They're all going to have a hypertrophy focus day, and they're all going to fight and compete. So those guys do an amazing job programming all that stuff. I'm not in the programming business no more, really. I mean, I have the new guys, the developmental guys, but my thing is this: like, if you really want to grow your program, you got to continue to grow the people that's in your program. And I always thought it was weird when one guy did all the programming. Like, okay, so hold on, let me get this together. You're getting paid, but I'm programming. So if I'm a program, why are you here? It never made sense to me. I went and hired the best guys out there that I can possibly hire, and I still think they're underpaid. You know what I mean? I think I really believe I got 5 head strength coaches on staff right now because they program that thing out, and we talk about everything. And then I let Coach Kelly know exactly what we're doing. That's another good thing about it because Coach Kelly understands the weight room. He said, "What we got tomorrow, KB?" And I tell him, we got deadlift, we got pull-ups, we got hang clean, we got power clean, we got jerk, we got sprints, we got resistance sprints, we got free sprints, we got change of direction, then we're going to fight. I love it. You know, so that's how I'm fortunate because I just got the best strength coaches in America, and I have no shame in saying that because all these guys can hold their own. If something happened to me tomorrow, that program would be okay. And that's, to me, that's real leadership. That's real leadership. We talk about it, and I told them in the interviewing process, if you expect somebody to be checking on you every day and seeing what time you're coming in, seeing what time you're leaving, and no. You better be doing this in your program. We're going to talk about everything. I'm going to tell you the direction I want to go in. Then after that, I'm like this. We'll talk about what you're going to do the day before. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I tell you. Then we change it, and then we just move on. But I haven't had a lot of those conversations where I didn't like it. I love it, and the kids love it, right? And so they have full autonomy. They have full autonomy. Just like Coach Kelly, he ain't going to go coach the running backs. Coach Kelly ain't going to go coach the D-line. Coach Kelly ain't going to go coach the wide receivers or the DBs. He's going to go talk to the position coach, say, look, this is what I see. We need to go ahead and find a solution. He'll come down to me. Say, KB, I think we need to do more reactionary stuff. Yes, sir. It'll happen next week. We're just not ready right now.
Right.
So I think leadership, man, is just one of the things that's evolving too, that needs to evolve, right? Because there's a lot of really good strength coaches out there that people will never know of because the head strength coach is so stuck on himself and so egotistical that he don't want to give anybody no type of authority, no type of power because he's intimidated by the people he works with. I'm not intimidated. I want them to take my job at the end of the day. I want them to. Because if they take my job, then they're elevating. One day I may have to go work for them. Be great for me, right? I think we all win. So I love my guys. I really believe within the next year I'm going to lose 2 or 3 of them. Because if I'm a college coach, I'm going to go see what UCLA is doing because we don't have injuries. All of my guys are well-versed on sports science because Coach Kelly that's his deal, right? That's his baby. And we're very intelligent young men, all highly educated. I'm going to lose 2 or 3 of them easy, but I'll be ready. I'll regroup.
And I think that should be the goal because now you're developing your coaches. You have better coaches, they can coach your guys better. Yep. So to me, that just makes perfect sense. Why would you not allow your guys to coach or to take ownership in the process? So I don't think I've heard that, before. I like that a lot because you're elevating the entire program based on the ownership you're giving your coaches. And then it makes you look better because you're giving your guys autonomy. You're giving your guys skin in the game to make decisions. And then I'm sure they have to deal with you if they make the wrong decision. And then you guys talk about it and they learn about it. As far as you mentioned the field stuff, as far as like maybe, the period in the summer, what do you do for speed development with your guys in the summer?
That's loaded because we do a lot. We do a lot, but we do a little. So last summer was a wild one. I think, particularly when it comes to sprinting, you have to build up some type of base to actually do that. So we have speed school just like everybody else does. We don't overdo it, right? I think these guys, particularly when you get to UCLA, they have they got something, right, or they wouldn't be there. But we have speed school just like everybody else. We kind of periodize it of how far and how long and what that volume is going to look like. But we do sled runs just like everybody else. We do prowler pushes just like everybody else does. I wish we had a hill, but we don't because if we had a hill, trust me, we would be on that hill. Not a steep hill, but like a 10% incline hill, right. We would definitely run on that. It wouldn't be 30 or 40 yards. It would only be like 15, just a drive deal. We would do that. But last year, and we went to that stadium, and we went to that track for the first time, and it was amazing because a lot of these guys, they're highly competitive anyway. So when I told them, this is the best speed school we've had, trust me. We would go to the track, we would warm up, and I would already have like an extension. My warm-up is like 30 minutes long. Like on any day, it's like 30 minutes because I really believe in the warm-up. The warm-up is dang near harder than the actual training itself, right? Oh, yeah. I think it should be, right? But our best days, our best speed days is when we go to the track and we warm up at the track. Now, you got to understand this UCLA, so you never know who's going to be at that track, right? It's star-studded all the time. But even if it's not, we do speed lanes according to guys' max velocity. So if you're a 21 guy, you're going to have 4 or 5 other guys right there with you. That's 21 guys. If you're a 20 guy, if you're a 19 guy, if you're an 18 guy, if you're a 17 guy, you're 6, whatever it is, you're about to line up, and that whistle's going to blow, and you better win. And it's the most competitive thing I've ever seen in my life.
I got to come out for one of those.
It never stops. It's like the chirping throughout the day is ridiculous. But then they all come to our offices and they pull it up on the computer. And I ran a 21.9 today. I ran a 21.5 today. Well, you ran a 21.9 yesterday. Now you ran a 21.5, so you ain't consistent. Well, I'll see you again tomorrow. It's crazy. Like on those Fridays, you got to come out. It's nuts. That whistle blows, and it's like it's a track meet. It's great. But then the thing about it, once we get done with the stadium and we get done with the track, it's squat day. And they go in and they just put some numbers up, man, and they just go. They go, and they go. But how we kind of do it, we don't do it like maxing as far as weight. We use the tendos at that point because we do understand that they probably lost a lot out there exerting themselves in those sprints. So we have kind of speeds that we want them to hit. But we don't do anything under the sun that's new. I think the thing that kind of sets us apart is when we do it, how we do it, and the preparation of doing so. And they say, how do you train your hamstrings? I say, well, the best form of training hamstrings is sprinting.
Sprinting, yep.
So my hamstrings hurt right now because I sprint. But it's just, if you want to be fast, sometimes you just got to run fast.
You got to run fast.
Yep. You got to run fast. So we do speed at least twice a week. At least twice a week. I believe this week it's going to be 3 times a week.
So I'm curious on the track. So they're on the track, in just regular athletic tennis shoes or spikes, or how do you do that?
Regular
just
tennis
the regular shoes. So
just like we homeboys at the park. We in middle school, and we've been waiting on Friday since Monday. And I've been chirping at you about what's going to happen to you on Friday when we get on that track. And it's on. Trust me, it's be like, where is he at? Put him right here beside me. But you want that competitiveness, right? You want that. The guys thrive off that. So I actually look forward to the summertime just to do that again.
That drives the intensity.
Yes.
Because it's a different environment. Mm-hmm. It's you're going to the track just to sprint. Mm-hmm. It drives the competition, the intensity, which is probably the best stimulus you can get as far as speed, because your outputs are high. I like that a lot.
And it's just not like, it's 200s too. So we run a 200, we run a 150, and we run a 100. And it's amazing. Some of the guys that win that 200, not even close in the 100. But some of the guys in that 100, they back there sucking down that 200. You know, it's a different race, right? It's a different race, but the guys enjoy it. They really do, because they know on that Friday that food truck may be there too. They know that. They know, okay, it's Friday. Who's coming today? Is it In-N-Out this week? Is it California Pizza Kitchen coming this week? Is it Chick-fil-A this week? So on Fridays, they know something's coming. So that's kind of the carrot. But they don't need no carrot no more. Like they just want to win at this point. It's been great. Like my first 2 years there, we was 8-4, 9-3 regular season. And so they see the belief and the things and the people that Coach Kelly continuing to surround them with the coaches and the strength staff and things like that. Like the program is growing and it's on an upward trajectory. It's actually kind of scary how good we're going to be. We're going to be darn good. It's scary how good we're going to be.
And O-line, D-line are on the track too? Everybody?
They want to.
You don't let them?
They want. It's not that I don't let them. They have a little special. They have something special on Fridays. It's called a prowler.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, they would rather go to the track, trust me.
Yeah.
Man, I want to go to the track. But they will go to the stadium. They'll go to the stadium. They'll leave the stadium, and they will go to that prowler. Like tomorrow's Friday, they got that prowler. They got prowler relays tomorrow, and it ain't pretty, man.
That's a non-negotiable for you? They got to push weight?
They got to. Oh yeah, for sure. They got to get that. They got to get them pads down. They got to get behind that pass, and they got to push that prowler. But it's only 10 yards. But it's like if it's all of us, it's 10 yards. I go, then you go, then you go, then you go, then I go, then you go, then you go. It's like a relay, and it never stops. It's like 30 minutes straight. It's awful. When they get done with that, they don't want to talk to nobody. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me how I'm doing. It's one of those. So they would much rather go to the track.
I want to take a step back. You talked about tumbling, cartwheels. There's some people in the field that do those things and have popularized them, but they're not as popular. They're not looked at. People don't. They're not. You don't see them as much. I guess it'd be more of just, what do you see the importance of that, and why do you do them?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm glad you asked that. I've been actually waiting on that. But we were all kids, right? That's what we did. We went outside with no socks and shoes on. Most of the time, you got your butt whooped because you didn't have socks and shoes on. And all we did was just played. We did cartwheels. We tried to do backflips. Some of us excelled at it. Some of us didn't. I still do a backflip to this day, right? But we was at our best when we was kids. We was just out there having fun. But what happened is, if you wasn't in gymnastics, then you stopped. Gymnastics is not a poor man's sport. That stuff costs. So we get away from it. So we started specializing in basketball and football and all these other things. But we forgot about the fundamentals. To me, those things are just learning how to crawl is a fundamental. You was born to know how to do that, actually. We all crawled. We all rolled. We all tumbled. But since we don't do it anymore, then when you finally do it again, you all dizzy and discombobulated and don't understand what's going on. Your body was actually made to do that. So this is how people get hurt. When you see people fall and hurting their shoulders or all this other type of stuff, we don't know how to fall anymore. But guess what? If you play basketball, you play baseball, you play soccer, you play lacrosse, whatever it is, you're going to fall. So I'm equipping these guys to not only learn how to fall, not only learn how to use their body, but how to react after that happens. So it happens in football. I'm an old, washed-up fullback. I try to go block Ray Lewis. I probably won't be successful at it. I actually blocked Ray Lewis. He wouldn't know me from a grain of salt, but I actually blocked him. It was a highlight of my life. But anyway, I did. It was great. Anyway, say he took me and he shucked me and I fell, but I knew how to fall. I rolled, I got up, I was able to climb up to the safety, get a cut block on Ed Reed. I'm not saying this happened. I wish it happened, but it could happen, right? I want guys that, one, understand how to fall, but how to react after the fall. If you can forward roll, if you could backward roll, if you can do cartwheels to the point where that's back normal to you again, and when those things happen in games and you're not so dizzy or discombobulated and still react, you're going to be a better ball player. The better you move, the better you know how to use your body, the better athlete you're going to be in any sport. So I had tennis at USC. This is a funny story. We won a national championship in tennis, and I can't play tennis, so I was just doing strength and conditioning. But we had guys that was from different countries, different parts of Europe, France, wherever, right? And I remember to this day, Coach Smith was watching us do some training, doing some warming up, and we was doing forward rolls. So he just standing there. He's actually like fuming at this point. He's like, what in the world? Like, these are my prize recruits out there doing cartwheels, out there doing forward rolls, out there doing backward rolls. And then so he shot me a text that night. He said, Keith, I love you. I love everything you're doing. He said, but we're not the gymnastics team. So we actually sat down and we talked about it. But what happened was he came out the next day and we were just doing forward rolls. But he found out that his kids loved it. Coach, we rolled yesterday. Can we do it again today? But then it's a kid named Max. He's actually a professional tennis player right now. I forgot Max's last name. The kid broke out in a cartwheel and a full no-hand backflip in the middle of the turf field. He's 6'5", and didn't nobody know he was a gymnast when he was a kid. Now, of course, everybody wants to start doing that. Now, we're not going to do that. But it just woke up the kid again. So it became a part of our daily routine of tumbling and rolling and doing cartwheels and learning how to be efficient. And then it's also just learning how to use your body. So that's why we do it. And Coach Kelly loves it. Oh, my gosh, he loves it. Coach, he said, KB, we rolling tomorrow? Yes, sir. He said, that's the best thing we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, I think in our era, I'm 30, so in that era, kids that I trained, so say they're 10, 12, typically, like, in my era, I remember, like, the female athlete, that was more their thing, guys, whatever. Now I've had kids that I've trained that, male or female, that couldn't do a somersault. I'm like, how do you not be able to do a somersault?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
it's just, it's interesting, the concept that you're talking about, and I've talked about with some people in the basketball world. It gets engagement, gets them to move and have fun and bring kind of back that natural just movement to their body. Yeah, it's interesting. It's just it's a point that I feel like not a lot of people are doing, but I've heard it in some places. So it's interesting.
And in basketball, and you could talk more about this, but most of the time you have to fall to not get hurt. If you're coming down the court at full speed and you get bumped at full speed and you try to land it on one leg, like that's sometimes where you see the ACL and different knee injuries. So you got to fall to not get hurt. So I think there's so much value to that, even if it's just you're not doing it for 2 hours, right? You're doing it for even just a warm-up, right? So I think there's a lot of value to that to multiple sports.
I'm going to tell you the effect that it's had on our team at UCLA because it's extremely proud and have a lot of pride. And most people in general are scared to fail or look foolish in front of other people. But guess what? Everybody's out there looking foolish. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's out there looking foolish. Some of the guys are kind of shyer about it. It's like, man, I don't want to do that because I'm not good at it. But when they see their teammates, they're not good at it. But 2 weeks in, it's like, yo, because we video everything. And then we show on video, this is his first day of doing it. This is week 3 of him doing it. He's gotten so much better. You know what I mean? So you can just see that constant improvement. But just breaking down that wall of fear of failure and not wanting to look bad in front of your teammates, that's the biggest thing too. And like today, we did deadlift today. We did push, jerk, and deadlift today, eccentric deadlift with a pause. It was awful. But at this time, you know, their muscles are like tight and they're bounded up because, you know, obviously the eccentrics and things like that. So we do it for a warm-up and we do it for a cool-down. You got to get the body moving again because if you don't, you'll be stiff all day. And they're like, Coach, I got to do it again. I'm like, okay, you can either do it and feel better tomorrow, or you can just sit around and do whatever you're going to do, and then you're going to come in here tomorrow, you're going to be not your best self. So our guys have been loving it. They know when those tumbling mats, because I do it every morning at 6 o'clock. Me and some of the other coaches, like older coaches, are coming down there. Hey, Coach KB, you got that card? I'm going to start tumbling again. One coach said, Coach, I ain't did this in 50 years. But he's just down there, he's doing it. And nobody's perfect at it, but you're just moving again, and my back feels better. My body feels better. I'm moving. I'm jumping rope, and I'm doing – it's a different type of workout, but I enjoy it, and our kids enjoy it.
You know, you mentioned something that I see a lot. So, you know, I train a lot of high school football teams, right? So you talked about kind of being embarrassed, or I look at it, and for whatever reason, it's people are too cool to care, right? Because if you want to actually try and you fail, you're embarrassed. So for me, it's like I try to get these guys, look, it's okay to care. There's this too cool mentality sometimes where you fail, and it looks like you're called a try hard, right? So a lot of kids will call each other a try hard. Yeah. So they don't want to try hard at all because it almost looks like you're too cool if you don't care. Yeah. Because then you have no ownership. You have no – so like if you fail, it doesn't matter. Oh, because I didn't really care. Yeah. I didn't really care, so it didn't matter. As opposed to, you know, you're really trying hard and then you fail and it's like you're embarrassed. So I try to get them out of that mentality. So I think that's a great way to potentially do that because, look, it's okay to care and it's okay to fail. So if you fail in front of everybody, look, it's okay. So I think I could draw a lot of value from that with the high school teams that I train, trying to get them out of that, hey, it's okay to care. Don't be too cool. Mm-hmm. You could be a try-hard. Be a try-hard. It's all right. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think I take a lot of value from that too.
It's just fun because our best tumblers are our defensive linemen and our offensive linemen. You would think it'd be your running backs and wide receivers just because how agile they are. No. Our defensive linemen, I think because of the nature of their position, they're used to being on all fours. We got a defensive lineman, Jay Toya. I mean, I think he's one of the best defensive linemen in the country. The other day, he took like a 3-step hop, a 3-step jump, and did a forward roll, boom, 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 and landed on his feet. I say, don't you ever do that again. He said, Coach, I can do this. I'm an athlete, Coach. I'm from Tongue. I'm like, oh, my God, here we go. But he's great, man. I mean, our defensive linemen, but it's good for them. They need it. Offensive linemen, we got a kid, Taka. Taka's 6'5"-ish, well over 3-something. He can roll like a mother freaker, man. He can go. Forward roll, backwards roll. And he's just an amazing athlete. We found him on a basketball court. He was out there playing basketball. He was a walk-on. Now he's going to, make a good claim for himself. So we get everybody rolling.
Coach, let me ask you this. What is something that you changed your mind on that you maybe were dogmatic about, like, say, 10 years ago?
Yeah. Probably work-life balance. I would say that. I think from a training aspect, I've always thought a certain way because I like to call myself an athlete, so I kind of know what this feels like. I've been through the rigors of on every level, right? So I got a good sense of what this needs to look like and what it needs to feel like. So from a training aspect, it's kind of second nature to me, truthfully. I hate to be arrogant about it, but it kind of is. But the thing that I would say that I've matured a lot is just that work-life balance. And I would attribute a lot of that to Coach Kelly and our schedule, right? On my staff, 2 of the guys are married and they have kids. The other guys, they're not married. I'm pretty sure they got significant others, whatever. It's not my business. But I always encourage these dudes, man. Like, if we're done, why are you here? It's 3 o'clock. You know, why are you here? Like, go home. Go pick your kids up from school. Go take your wife out to lunch. Go walk the dog. But you have no reason to be here because I'm leaving too, right? Because it's that old thing, well, if the boss is here, I'm going to stay here. No. One, I'm not your boss. That's the first thing. I'm not your boss. I'm not your boss at all. We're all here to make Coach Kelly's job better, right? Make it easier for him. Take some stuff off his table, right? We all here to serve these kids, serve this university, serve Coach Kelly. But the thing that I changed is that I always thought, man, I'm going to be the first one in the building, the last one to leave. I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not going to be the first one in the building, and I'm not going to be the last one to leave. But I'm going to tell you, when I'm there now, we're going to get work done. And we're going to be efficient with our time. We're going to meet before we lift. We're going to meet after we lift. I'm going to go talk to Coach Kelly. Coach Kelly's going to get his workout in, and we are gone. Because I believe this. It's nothing worse than a tired coach. A tired coach is a bad coach. A coach with a bad home is a bad coach. It's no way that you can come be the best for these kids and all hell is breaking loose at home. It's no way that's going to happen. So I tell my guys all the time, if you got to take your kids to school, take them to school, please. If your wife is not feeling good and you got a baby, you're going to stay at home and take care of that kid and making sure your wife is good. So I think 10 years ago, I don't know if I would have had this much grace, you know what I mean? Because at 10 years ago, I was still eager to be in the business and make money and be the hardest working guy in the building, be the first one in the building and the last one to leave. But through life experiences and having my own children and people blessing us and coming to help us watch our kids and taking my kids to school or her boss allowing her to take her kids to school and come in late, it's like I can't not do that with other people. Like, you know, you're going to be married first. This job is probably third next to your wife and your kids. So you take care of them first, and then you come here. And then it's been great because I know when our guys come to work now, they're in a good place. They're not burnt out. They probably left 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if not 1 o'clock, after their own personal workouts, after we meet. You go home. You live in Santa Monica. You live in Malibu. You live in Agora. Wherever you live at, go enjoy that. That's part of the reason of me even bringing you here because the first thing I told them, hey, do you really want to live in that part of the country when you can come to L.A.? You got the beach. You got this. And so that's what I sold. I'm not going to lie to you, so go do that. So I was kind of dogmatic in that type of deal. Like I felt like I had to be the hardest working guy in the building. I feel like when you're there, you should be the most efficient guy in the building. I don't know if the hardest working guy is the key, but the most efficient guy in the building is probably the better deal. But I'm not going to be the last one there. I can guarantee you that. They're probably there right now. I've been gone for a long time.
I would say maybe to finish it off is, and we may have already touched on this with that, but just any advice you have for, you know, a strength coach, kind of a younger strength coach, especially in the football world, because, you know, obviously you have a lot of experience. You've been doing it for a long time, and you've been a lot of different places. what would just be some advice for a guy like that?
Be humble. Be humble, be honest, be loyal. No job is too small. Do them all. Clean up as much as you can. I have the most fun when I'm cleaning up. The most fun, because you know what? You know what happens when you're cleaning up? Nobody bothers you, because they too scared you go ask for help. Right? Set up, break down, because what happens when you set up the weight room and you break down the weight room, you understand how things work. You understand functioning of the weight room, how to be more efficient when you do things. Be kind and be kind to everybody, right? Be kind to the young man who's taking the trash out. As a matter of fact, you tell him, you know what, you take that one out, I'm gonna go take this one out. You know, be kind to the person who checks you in at the gate. One of my best mentors to this day, he used to be at the gate at USC. He used to work the night shift, so I used to get to work at like 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and he used to sit there and he used to pray with me every morning, without fail. And he'll text me to this day. He'll send me scripture. He'll send me this or he'll send me that. Must read this. Must watch this. But it was just off. I'm just saying good morning. Hey, how you doing? How's your family? How's your wife? Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Just get to know people. Have relationships with people. Do all the jobs. Ain't no job too small. Set up. Break down. Don't go behind your freaking supervisor's back. You know what I mean? Don't get caught upstairs in the position coach's offices trying to chop it up and trying to make it seem like you're better than what you are, you know. That's a big one. If you have any issues with anything going on, go talk to the director directly, you know. Don't be intimidated by him. He's just a person. He got feelings and emotions just like everybody else. He's dealing with stuff just like everybody else. I would say the biggest thing, though, what I found out is that you don't have to be nobody else. You just be yourself. Like, it's somebody out there. Like, I had no idea because I didn't know Coach Kelly before I got to UCLA. But it's somebody, I say somebody, it can be a company, an organization, some type of entity, or somebody, literally. It's somebody out there looking for exactly what you got. But if you change who you are, fundamentally trying to be somebody else, then they're never going to discover you for who you really are. Like, I've always been this way, so I don't have to be nobody else. Like, I've always had, tons of enthusiasm because I'm just enthusiastic about life in general. I've always consciously been kind, right? Because that's a skill, right? You got to learn how to do that, right? I've always been approachable because I'm just I like to talk to people in general. And so my personality in general is probably not the personality that Coach Kelly is, because he's an introverted. He's an introvert. I'm actually an introvert as well when I'm at home, right? Because I'm scared my wife will ask me to do something, so I kind of stay quiet, right? But outside of work, then let's do this. It's a party. You know what I mean? And I remember in the interviewing process, Coach Kelly said, you're exactly what we need. In order for us to go from good to great, you're exactly what we need. And when I got there, I understood it because I had a better understanding of who he was and how he operated. Amazing dude, though. Amazing dude. But if you're looking for him to come up and be me, that's not him. Now, he can do it, but that's not him. I was exactly what he needed. It's like a match made in heaven. You know what I mean? But if I wasn't KB and if I was trying to be whoever, it would have never worked, So I always say, man, and not even just in strength and conditioning, just in general, like, somebody's looking for exactly who you are. And whenever that person finds who you are, you find who that person is, it's inseparable. It's just what it is. That's why, like, I'm a great fit for UCLA. You know, I'm a great fit for UCLA. Like, my personality is great for UCLA. My personality may not be great for West Texas State University. It may not be. But for UCLA, it is. So I'm grateful to be there.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice just in general in life, you know, much less a strength coach. So no, I think this was super valuable. I appreciate you taking the time to come out here. I really, really do. And best of luck to you guys, you know, next season.
We're going to need it. Well, you know what? I don't know how much luck we're going to need. We're going to be extremely prepared, you know. Like I told our guys last year before we went 9-3, we're not surprising anybody anymore. Like, we went 8-4, like, there's no more surprising. Now it's like, okay, UCLA is who they say they are, right? So now we just have to be the most prepared and least distracted at this point. That may be our next shirt, most prepared, least distracted, because we got a target on our backs at this point, right? I know some guys in another state that really they're licking their chops to get back at us, and a lot of people licking their chops to get back at us, and we're licking our chops too. So we'll be prepared. We'll be least distracted, and we're doing the groundwork right now. So we just need LA to come out and continue to support us the way they have, and we'll be all right.
I like that, most prepared. I like that because it's about what I'm doing. I'm not worried about what anybody else is doing. Yep. You know, I really like that because it's all here. It's all up top, you know. And if you guys can collectively, like, decide on one certain thing and worry about what you're doing and being prepared, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. I like that a lot.
Yep. Most prepared, least distracted. We need to go ahead and coin that.
It's a perfect ending.
Yeah.
Perfect ending.
Thanks, Coach.
No doubt. This is fun. I'm enjoying it.